there are principles in those particular passages that refer us to a study of the Old Testament. These things was written for our learning and for our ensamples or examples, for our admonitions. Why, Paul? That we not make the same mistakes that hard-headed Israel made. So we need to study the Old Testament. As a matter of fact, when we have the Old Testament, is a book where the New Testament is actually concealed. And in the New Testament, we have the Old Testament revealed. In the Old Testament, we have the New Testament contained. And in the New Testament, we have the Old Testament explained. The New Testament produces what the Old Testament promised. We need to study our Old Testament. Now, if you don't believe that, in Luke 17:32, that passage says, remember somebody's wife. Now, that's all the New Testament says about that passage. You don't find anything else in the New Testament about Luke 17:32. Now, how are we going to remember Lot's wife and what God wants us to know if you don't have that Old Testament? Brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, there was salvation in the Old Testament. God has only had one salvational plan. In the Old Testament, he saved everybody by his grace. When they exercise obedient faith in view of what God was going to do on the cross. That's God's plan in the Old Testament. He saves everybody by his grace. When they exercise obedient faith in view of what he was going to do on the cross. That's his plan in the New Testament. But there is one thing added. God still saves everybody by his grace. When that man exercised obedient faith in the New Testament in what God now has done on the cross. That's his plan of what he has now done on the cross. Now, what has he done on the cross? That I might be saved tonight, that I might implement, or my obedient actions might be emblematical of what he's done on the cross. I declare unto you the gospel, which I preach unto you, which also you receive, and where you stand, by which also you're saved. If you keep in memory that which I preached unto you, unless you have believed in me. For I delivered unto you first of all that which I also received. How that Christ did what on the cross? Died for our sins. That he was buried. That he rose again the thrice day, according to 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 4. So God is still saving everybody by his grace when they exercise obedient faith. But now under this dispensation, in view of what God has done on the cross. So brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, when God's precious invitation over 2 millenniums that he extended to mankind, when he said, come unto me all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn of me. I'm meek and lowly in heart. Ye shall find rest unto your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That's God's extending his precious invitation. In Revelation 3 and verse 20, he says, behold, I stand at the door and knock. must be on the inside. Oh yes, the handle must be on the inside. You got to open the door. I never read a proscript where Jesus Christ is going to break the door down. You got to open that door. And when you open that door, in view of your obedience, he said, I'll come in and sup with you, you and me. So God has his precious invitation. Now, as we stopped on last evening, dealing with this Old Testament church, I want to point out to you tonight that I just have a few of these things up here, but there is no less than 30 articles from Exodus 25 through Exodus 38. There's no less than 30 items where every one of them had to be done according to specification. And in verse 21 forward of the book of Exodus, they did exactly as God said. 30 items. It's so interesting to me. God only gives us 5 and we can't seem to get that right. We seem as if we got a problem with that. In this Old Testament, there were 30 items that was involved in that worship. That Ark of the Covenant had to be made out of a certain kind of wood. He didn't say nothing about gopher wood that time, did he? Absolutely not. Had to be made out of acacia wood. Any wood just wouldn't do. At one time, in that first dispensation, that patriarchal dispensation, in that objective pattern, he said gopher wood. In this second dispensation, this Ark of the Covenant had to be made out of acacia wood. And we can go on and on. And brothers and sisters, friends and neighbors, when we recognize this Old Testament church and that worship, when we recognize that, we know that this is going to be replaced by the temple, by the tabernacle. But the New Testament church is going to replace that, according to Hebrews chapter 9. It's going to replace that old tabernacle. It's amazing to me. Turn your Bibles to Matthew 17 real quickly. And let's revisit something right here real quickly. It's amazing to me. God has always been about oneness. He's always been about oneness. That was one way of transporting this particular Old Testament church. So they couldn't choose the transportation of their choice. When we think about 2 Kings 5, we know Naaman couldn't choose the river of his choice. When we look at Genesis chapter 6, we see Noah could not choose the wood of his choice. The Jews could not choose the tabernacle of their choice. In Matthew chapter number 17, verse number 1, after 6 years. Now something happened 6 days ago. Something happened 6 days ago. In Jesus Christ's public ministry, the church of Christ was just about to be established. In Matthew chapter 4, John the Immerser said that. In Matthew chapter 3, repent, for the church of Christ is just about to be established. Now Jesus here, after 6 days, he's taken with him Peter, James, John, his brother, up on the
bring them up to a high mountain of Paul.
Uh-huh.
And the ten fingers before them, and his face did shine at the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah, talking with him. Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here. If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles.
Hold right. Let us make how many?
3.
Now, the question that has to be asked now. Here Jesus Christ, he lived, he preached, and he died up under that patriarchal law, didn't he? Huh?
That's right, no!
Okay, well, let me give you another chance. He lived, he died up under the Christian dispensation. Is that right? So he lived, he preached, he died up under that second dispensation law. Now we've been pointing out to you, when Moses, the children of Israel, came to Sinai's mountain, spent a solid year there, coming from Mrs. Egypt. It's on this occasion Exodus 19:1. That's all of the book of Leviticus. That's the first 10 chapters of the book of Numbers. I hope you're taking notes if you never knew that. You need to know this, friend. You really do. So anytime that we go and reference anything from Exodus 19:1 to Numbers chapter 10 and verse 10, we know this is that second dispensation law that God gave Moses. Now, that law is going to be in effect until Jesus Christ died on the cross. Blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us, which were contrary to us, took them out of the way, nailed it to his cross. Having spoiled principalities and power, he made a show of them openly, triumphant over in them. Let therefore no man judge you in respect of meat, drink, new moons, holy days, and Sabbath day, which was a shadow of things to come. Never was a real thing. It was just a shadow. When he gave this law, that law was going out. That's the reason I gave you God's plan of salvation. In view of what God is going to do on the cross. In view of what he's going to do on the cross. That second dispensation law was going out. New moons was monthly. Sabbath was weekly. Food and drink was daily. Feast days was yearly. But they are gone now. Because Jesus Christ nailed that to the cross. Wasn't nothing but a shadow. We know about shadow boxing. We know about that. If that man specializes in a left hook and you are training for that, then you got somebody that's a left hook person in front of you. You shadow boxing, left hook. But then when it comes to the real thing, you can act like somebody's not in front of you if you want to. You're going to get caught with that left hook. So we understand when God gave this law, it was on this way out. We see that in Acts 13, 30, and 39. Through Christ preaching to you the forgiveness of sin. And by him who Moses, no, by Jesus Christ, you can be justified from all things, but you could not be justified by the law of Moses. Let me tell you something, neighbor. That Old Testament law wasn't nothing but a parole officer. That's all it was. Had to check in once a year. I remember when I was growing up, before they had that injection, how we got rid of the measles. You know how we got rid of the measles? We used to get that number 3 tub. And then we filled it up with hot water. And then my mama, my grandmama would baptize me in that number 3 tub. Oh yes, you're going down in that hot water. Oh yes, you are. You see, that's the way we got. Oh, I know everything is better now. This is before that injection. That's the way we got rid of the measles. And I'm telling you tonight, that Old Testament, it wasn't nothing but the measles. That's all it was. Nothing but the measles. Until we got the injection of the blood of King Jesus Christ. Once we get the blood of Christ, never that Old Testament law is gone. It's gone. But we can study it, neighbor. We can see. We can look at those principles. And we can apply those principles and learn those principles. Now, what you got in Matthew chapter 17? Here, up under that second dispensation law, Peter wanted to build free under that second dispensation law. Now let's go back and let's see what the second dispensation law says about that. Now, in Exodus chapter 25. Exodus chapter 25. Let's see something here. In verses 8 and 9, we looked at that passage. And we saw what God gave from Exodus 25 verses 8 all the way through verse number 40. He gave us all the measurements. He gave us the compartments. He gave us everything that the children of Israel had in order for them to be pleasing to Almighty God. Now when we look at Exodus chapter 26, verse number 30. Exodus chapter 26, verse number 30. What does the book say?
Thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof.
According to the fashion or pattern thereof. Thou shalt raise up or rear up the tabernacle according to the pattern thereof. Exodus 27, verse number 21. Let's see. Well, go back to Exodus 26 and verse number 6. Exodus 26, verse number 6.
Thou shalt make 50
tassels of
gold. Coupled with the curtain together with the tackle, and it shall be one tabernacle.
How many?
One.
It shall be how many?
One.
Now here, I've already told you, from Exodus 19:1, all of the book of Leviticus, the first 10 chapters of the book of Numbers, this is the law of Moses, the law of God that Moses is giving to the children of Israel. Now God says, there shall be one tabernacle. Now this law is going to last until it's abrogated on the cross. There shall be one tabernacle. Matthew chapter 17, this law is still in effect. Peter wanted to be a three. Peter wanted to be a three. God says that there's going to be but one. Now let's see how long this tabernacle is supposed to last. Now in Exodus 27, in Exodus chapter 27, the 27th chapter of the book of Exodus, I want you to look at verse number 21. Verse number 21, the book says what?
Tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony, Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning.
Now watch.
The Lord.
Now watch this.
It shall be a statute forever unto their generation.
It shall be a statute. How long?
Forever.
Forever.
To their generation.
Forever. Throughout their generation. Now let me clear up this dispensational stuff. Let me straighten John Hagin and all of these false hustlers on television now about these words forever, eternal, everlasting. When you see that word is used on this time title, it has reference to time and not eternity. It has reference to time, neighbor, and not eternity. This has reference to that second dispensational law. I read in Jonah chapter 1, Jonah chapter 2. Jonah says, I was in the fish belly forever, but how long was he there? How long was he there? There's a time limit involved, neighbor. There's a time limit involved. And when that passage says that law in this tabernacle is going to last forever, it's throughout that second dispensation, neighbor. Throughout that second dispensation. Here Peter wanted to be a three. God said one tabernacle. Just like that, now the church is going to replace the tabernacle. If we get that far tonight in Hebrews chapter 9, the church is going to replace that tabernacle. And just like you had one tabernacle, maybe you only have one church. Oh yeah, that's all you got. You only have one church, despite of what men say or despite of what men do. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's look at, we stopped around about Numbers 33. Let's see how far we can get tonight. Now we've already shown in Numbers 33 how these people had to camp 30 times after God gave this law. And those 30 items that contain in this Old Testament church and this tabernacle, they had to be done according to specification. And no less than 17 times they did what Moses told them. No less than 17 times. Now, what you see in Numbers 33 and verse number 50 through 56, God reiterates some things to them. When you get over there and cross that Jordan River, this is what I want you to do to those people over there. Now, when you leave the book of Numbers, you come now to the book of Deuteronomy. Now, the book of Deuteronomy, let me just give you an overview real quick. The book of Deuteronomy, as many of us know, it simply means second law. It is a repeating of the laws that God had originally gave to that first generation that died in that wilderness. In Exodus 20, that first generation. Now what God does, he repeats those laws to that generation that was born out there in that wilderness. So now everybody is at least 37 years old. Now when we come to that book of Deuteronomy, that book of Deuteronomy, it encompasses only 2 months. That's all it encompasses. It's only 2 months. Now what happens is, the first 30 days, Moses re-indoctrinated that second generation with these same laws. Please don't make the same mistake that your fathers did. Amen. Don't make the same mistakes. Now then Moses dies. And according to Jewish customs, yeah, that mourning period was 7 days. But if you was a dignitary, they would mourn your death for 30 days. So now the last 30 days of the book of Deuteronomy, they mourn Moses' death. The first 30 days, the book is only 2 months, neighbor. The first 30 days, Moses indoctrinates them, re-indoctrinates them, that second generation. The last 30 days, Moses dies. And they mourn Moses' death. Now, when we start, as always, most books, introductory material, preparatory work, introduce what's going to be accomplished in the book. Now, when we come to Deuteronomy chapter 4, through all the way through chapter number 11, God says, this is kind of homes that I want over there when you cross that river. God chose these people as his nation. Now, in order to have a nation, what you got to have people, you got to have a land, and then you got to have a law. Oh, the United States need to learn this here. You got to have people, you got to have a land, you got to have a law. God chose the Jews for his people. He gave them the land. That land was Canaan. That land was Canaan. And he gave them the law. Exodus 19:1, all of the book of Leviticus, first 10 chapters of the book of Numbers. Now I want you to notice something. In chapter number 7, Brother Robert, we got a little work to do this tonight. In chapter 7, I'm not going to get to all of the government stuff, and I sure would like to. God knows I would like to get to that. God says, these are the kind of homes that I want. This is the kind, because all the way back in Deuteronomy 5, all the way back, honor thy fathers and thy mothers. Why? That your days might be prolonged in the land that I'm going to give you. What on earth are you talking about? Neighbor, if you want a nation that is free from contamination of immorality, that is free from the contamination of denominationalism, of crime, this is what you got to do. You got to teach your children and your children's children the word of Almighty God. Oh yeah, that's what he says. That's what he says. I know people take that passage, well, honor thy father and thy mother, that my days may be long. That's not what it's talking about. It's not talking about, well, if I obey my parents, and I was going to die at the age of 80, but since I'm going to obey my parents, instead of me dying at the age of 80, I'll die at the age of 200. That's not what he's talking about. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the things that's happening across that river. Neighbor, when we have strong homes, this is what God is telling those people. When you go across there, I'm going to clean that place out for you. Now, if you wanted to stay clean and free of contaminants, what you got to do, you got to have a certain kind of home.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, don't get quiet on me in here, like I'm saying something wrong. Because if you find your souls hanging in the balance of what is being preached, then you need to come up here and get it straight.
Amen.
That's what you need to do.
Amen.
God says, I want a certain kind of home over there. I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to clean it up for you. And I want a certain kind of home over there. Because, neighbor, when we have strong homes, we're going to have a strong community. We're going to have a strong school system. We're going to have a strong neighborhood. We're going to have a strong church. We're going to have a strong nation, neighbor. But when we got weak homes, ungodly homes, those weak, ungodly homes, they're going to elect weak, ungodly rulers. And those weak, ungodly rulers, they're going to make liberal laws. Laws like gambling, laws that support the tobacco and the liquor industry, laws like same-sex marriages, laws like homosexuality, laws like the dog trap, and those same homes that elect those same wicked folk, that make these same ungodly laws, those laws are going to turn right around and tear up our homes, ladies. They're going to tear up our homes. How many homes have been tore up because of the dog tracks and the horse tracks? How many? How many homes have been tore up because of domestic violence, because of the use of alcohol? How many people die and just the use of tobacco? That's just another way of committing suicide on the installment plan. We might as well, hey, but if you want to be a member of the New Testament church, you got to live right. You got to do what's right. Nicotine in its purest form inserted into your bloodstream will bring instant death. We need to realize and recognize that. That filthy practice is forbidden among God's people. It tears up our homes. It's destructive, neighbor. And we're wondering why we're in the mess that we're in. And we want to blame everybody. We want to blame the police. We want to blame the school system. I know we want to blame the preachers in hell. I know that. I know we want to blame the preacher. You see what he just said? Oh yeah, I know we want to blame him. We want to blame everybody but us. When those young children take a gun and go around and shoot up these schools, you know the first question I ask, who is that boy's daddy? That's the first question I'm asking. Who is that boy's daddy? You're suspicious and officers of God, neighbor. What has happened to us as a people? What has happened to us? God says, I want a certain kind of home when you go across that river. I'm going to clean it up for you. And all you got to do is to teach your children and teach your children's children the word of Almighty God. That's all you got to do. America, neighbor, is no stronger than our homes. I know democracy is the best form of government, but we had better have the government of God in our homes, neighbor. We think about building these houses, nothing wrong with that. But when are we going to start building homes to live in these houses? When are we going to start doing that? We love these big old cathedral worship places. Certainly nothing wrong with that to an extent. But when are we going to build a church to meet in this building? When are we going to start building churches to meet in this building, neighbor? When we have strong homes, neighbor, we're going to have a strong neighborhood. We're going to have a strong church. We're going to have a strong school system, neighbor. That's the problem. How is it? I gave you that illustration on last night, but how can you tell me? Why we're like that? You know why? Because we have, and I know that's 7 ratio of men to women, and then the majority of the rest of them are in the penitentiary, and the rest of them health is so bad because of drug use, running the streets all night, all that kind of stuff. Amen. Neighbor, when you have a messed up man, that man is going to mess his family up. Amen. Now you got a messed up family. Amen. Now since that messed up man and messed up his family, and if that family stays in the neighborhood, now you got a messed up neighborhood. Amen. Because of that messed up man. Now you got a messed up man, he done messed his family up that stays in a messed up neighborhood, and if that family goes to school, now you got a messed up school. Amen. That messed up man that has messed his family up, that messed the neighborhood up, that goes to school and mess that up, if they come to church, now you got a messed up church. Amen. Because of that messed up man. Right. And if that church is in a neighborhood, or that church is in a nation, now you got a messed up nation. Neighbor, if we want a better nation, composed of better states, composed of better cities, composed of better communities, composed of better neighborhoods, composed of better schools, composed of better church. We better try to get our lives together, you men. We better try to get ourselves together.
All right.
Amen.
And that's exactly what he's talking about in Deuteronomy 7. You don't believe that? Read some of it for me. I know where I am, neighbor. I know where I am. Read some of that for me.
When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land where thou goest,
Candace man, read.
and have cast out many nations before thee.
Uh-huh.
Hittites, Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Pezerites, and the
Hivites,
and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you.
Uh-huh.
When the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee.
Now this is what you got to do to them.
Deliver them before thee.
Thou shalt do what?
Deliver them before thee.
Read.
Thou shalt smite them.
You smite them, anything else in there.
And utterly.
Utterly destroy them. You see, they refuse to do that.
Amen.
They refuse to do that. Let me tell you something, friend. I might as well say this because I know I'm not going to get to the period of the Judges. The period of the Judges is all the book of Judges, all the book of Ruth, and the first 8 chapters of the book of 1 Samuel. That's the period of the Judges, 350 plus years. You got 4 main words there: sin, oppression, repentance, and deliverance. And then in Judges chapter 2 and verse 10, that's going to be another nation that's going to rise up that know not God. And then that nation that rise up that know not God, in verses 17 through 19, they cease not from their own doing, nor from their stubborn ways. And so what God does now in the period of the Judges, he takes 7 nations to discipline his people. Now when God raised up Othniel, Ehud, Shamgar, Deborah, Barak, Gideon, Abimelech, Tob, Jephthah, Israel, Elam, Abdar, Samson, Eli, and Samuel. He raised up these 15 judges. Now, in Judges chapter 3, we see somebody raise up, begin to discipline God's people because of what they did not do and follow in Deuteronomy 7. And that was a group called the Mesopotamia. So he raised up Othniel. He go out there and get his people.
That's it.
Bring his people back.
That's it.
And that memorized declaration speech.
That's it.
Brothers and sisters, I've seen it. I see it in the period of the Judges.
God, we sin, Lord. That's what y'all see.
It has been memorized.
Brother, that's so good.
No kind of humility, no kind of regret. Just get up and say it. Brothers and sisters, I've seen it. I repent of my sins. I ask the church to pray for me that I might go strong. We see it in the period of the Judges. And then in Judges 3, the Moabites rise up. You know why? Because they did not do in Numbers 33 verses 50 forward, Deuteronomy 7 forward, what God told them to do.
Yes, sir.
And now he raised up Ehud to deal with the Moabites. And the last verses of chapter 3, verses 30 forward, now what you have, Shamgar going to deal with the Philistines.
It's all right.
600 with Knox gold.
That's it.
And Judges 4 and 5, that was some other people God used to discipline his people. And that was the Canaanites.
That's it.
So he raised up Deborah, Barak.
That's it.
Brothers and sisters, I've seen
That's it.
every single time. There is no new thing under the sun, man.
Amen.
Every single time. And God is so good to us.
Lord,
Why would anyone
that's it.
want to turn their back on God? It's beyond me. God is too good to us, neighbor. He's too good to us for us to be slack and slowful and with apathy and negligence and just a don't care attitude. In chapter 6, there were some other people God raised up to discipline his people, the Midianites. But God raised up a man by the name of who? Gideon. Go right out there and get God's people. Because God wants the long suffering of God is salvation. They will not sin. God does not bless us to sin. Let's make sure we get that correct. Sin is anti-God. Sin is going in the opposite direction of God. Sin is turning your back on God. That's what sin is. And then there's that eternal strife. Then you go with the Amorites. God used those people. And on and on and on. in that period of the judgment because they would not do exactly what God said. Read just a little bit more of that.
And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them.
Hold it. Thou shalt what?
Make no.
Thou shalt make no covenant with those people. Hold it, wait a minute. I want you to stick a pin right there.
Yes.
I want every Bible to turn to 2 Chronicles 19. Now let me say something about the Chronicles since we turned to that. The book of Deuteronomy is written to prepare God's people to go into the land of Canaan, Palestine, Jerusalem. Now, the Chronicles are written because when you read the Kings and the Chronicles, you read the same verse or verse. The Chronicles are written to prepare God's people to go back into the land of Jerusalem. Let's make sure we make a notation of that. The Chronicles are written to prepare God's people. Now, you just coming, you going into Babylonian captivity. Oh, yeah, you going. You going for 70 years. Jeremiah 6 tells us that. You going for 7. But Jeremiah 25:12 tells us that. But you coming out. You coming out. So the Chronicles are written to motivate God's people. Why won't you just be obedient? That's what the Chronicles are written for. Now in 2 Chronicles 19 and verse number 2. Notice what the book says. 2 Chronicles 19 and verse 2.
Hannah, the seer went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, shouldst thou help the ungodly and love them that hate the Lord?
Now you see what this is here in 2 Chronicles, chapter number 19. Notice something here. 2 Chronicles, chapter number 19. Now this is in reference of Deuteronomy 7. And we're going to write back there. You keep your pen in Deuteronomy 7. 2 Chronicles 19. Notice again with me. 2 Chronicles 19. In this passage. 2 Chronicles 19. Here, Jehoshaphat is the Rehoboam, Abiah, Asa, Jehoshaphat. Yes. The fourth king of the south. The fourth king of the south. Jehoshaphat is the fourth king of the south. Yes, now, what Jehoshaphat was doing, yes, he was going up north, yes, and fraternizing with those kings in the north. And now here, should you just keep on going over there fraternizing and having fellowship with those folk that are ungodly?